إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. In this session, we'll be covering a dua that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam teaches us so that we can protect ourselves from ourselves. And that dua is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would teach him, one of the companions said that his name was Shakl ibn Humayd. He said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would teach me this dua. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من شر سمعي ومن شر بصري ومن شر لساني ومن شر قلبي ومن شر مني. Oh Allah, I seek your protection from my hearing, from my sight, from my tongue, and from my evil or pleasures, sexual pleasures. So the Prophet ﷺ is teaching him to make dua, to ask Allah to protect him from his own self, from his evil thoughts and desires, and his sinful actions. And this is important because we know that in Islam, that the Day of Judgment, when we are there in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are being held to account, our deeds will be placed before us, and we will have to defend ourselves before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And on that day, there will be no eloquent speaking and sneaking and getting away with things that we should not have done. In fact, our bodies will actually turn and speak against us. So, for instance, if you hurt somebody, your hands will begin to speak and say, oh Allah, this person did X, Y, and Z sin. And so this is why it's important that we ask Allah for protection from ourselves, because we want these things to be witnesses for us on the Day of Judgment and not against us on the Day of Judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Fussilat, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, وَيَوْمَ يُحْشَرُ أَعْدَاءُ اللَّهِ إِلَى النَّارِ فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ, that on the Day of Judgment, the enemies of Allah will be gathered to the fire, where they are assembled. حتى إذا ما جاءوها شهد عليهم, until they get to it and they approach it, they will begin to testify. And what will begin to testify? سمعهم, their seeing, their hearing. وأبصارهم, and their sight. وجلودهم, and their flesh. بما كانوا يعملون, with what they used to do. So our body, our flesh, our sight, our tongues, our hearing, all of these things will testify on the Day of Judgment. And so this dua is a beautiful dua that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from these evil things that we would do with these senses and the flesh that we have been given. So that way, if we are protected from doing evil with them, then we are doing good with them, then that good will be presented on the Day of Judgment instead of that evil. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from ourselves. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. جزاك الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.